Welcome to this Wise Owl research presentation in which we will be solving an exponential equation. This is the equation that we will be looking at, and we will need to use the rule in the box. The first thing that you should do on any equation, if it's an exponential equation or not, is try to simplify it as much as you can. And to start off with, at the moment we have a term, a term, and a term, and we can reduce this from a 3-term equation into 2 just by dividing by this 2 here. So let's divide the whole thing by 2. That will cancel out the 2 on this side, so what we will be left with is 1.5 raised to the power of 3x, and half of that is 22.5. Now we are going to use this equation here because we have an exponential function at the moment. We have a power, and by using this we can, if we take the natural log of this expression, we can get rid of this power and move it out in front of the natural log. That would make things a lot easier. However, as you know, that with these sorts of equations, if there's an equal sign involved, then it means that the whole thing is in perfect balance. So whatever we do to this side, we have to do it to this side too. So we can't just pick and choose. So if we're going to use this and put it against a natural log, we need to do the same thing here too. So what I'll do, just for simplicity, is I'll write it out. And then what we'll do is we'll do the actual calculation, just for audit trail. There we go. Now if we take the natural log of this expression, this rule tells us how it's going to look, and all that we end up with is 3x ln 1.5, and then we end up with that as so. If you ask yourself the next thing to do, remember, to solve this equation we want x on its own. At the moment we have 3 multiplied by x multiplied by ln 1.5. All that we have to do is we have to divide. Because this is all multiplied by itself, we can undo each of these by dividing, if that makes sense. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If we divide this expression, and we'll have to do the same over here, by 3 ln 1.5, and again we'll do the same thing here. So we divide it by 3 ln 1.5. The 3 up here and down there will cancel out. So will the ln 1.5. All that we'll be left with is x. So x is equal to ln 22.5 divided by 3 times the natural log of 1.5. We're going to need our calculators to solve this, unless you are an absolute genius and work that out in your mind. And if my calculations are correct, one moment, x will be equal to, let's round that up to 2.56. And that is the answer. So basically what we've done is we've had to use some of the basics of manipulating equations, but we've also had to use this rule as well. We've got a short break coming up, and then I will go through a more advanced example of this. The next example we're going to do is a little bit more tricky. It's 5 multiplied by 2 raised to the power of u divided by 2 plus 30 equals 600. So we're going to do the same sort of principles, and this is going to show you that these might get a little bit more advanced, these questions, but you can solve them in pretty much the same way. As before, we have a term, a term, a term, and a term. I would say you could divide the whole thing by 5, but you'd have to divide too many things by 5. So let's just get rid of this plus 30 at the moment. If we subtract 30 from both sides, what we'll end up with is 5 multiplied by 2 raised to the power of u divided by 2 equals 570. And just like that, we've turned an equation with 4 terms into 3. The next thing we're going to do is, as before, we are going to divide everything by 5. That will knock off this 5. It will reduce this by 20%. So let's go for that. Will stay the same because we've lost the multiplied by 5, and that will give us 114. And just like before, next what we're going to do is use this rule in the box. So we take the natural log of both sides. So that would be ln 2 raised to the power of u divided by 2 is equal to ln 114. Next thing we need to do is actually do this calculating, which will give us a half multiplied by u ln 2, which is equal to natural log 114. This would be an extra step because we didn't have this situation before. We didn't have this coefficient of a half. So it's quite simple to clear that. What do? This is basically telling us divide u by 2 or divide this by 2. So we just multiply by 2. Multiply both sides by 2. Oops. This pen is terrible. And by doing this, as we know, multiplying by 2 will clear this fraction. So you will end up with u natural log 2 equals 2 multiplied by the natural log of 114. Finally, what we need to do is we have u multiplied by the natural log of 2 over here, but we only want u. So we just divide by everything that we don't want. So we divide both sides by the natural log of 2. And what that will do is it will clear what's on this side of the equation. It will just leave us with u, because ultimately what you'll find is that these will just cancel out. So you will be left with u is equal to. Now, something you need to be careful of. Do not get into the mistake of cancelling this out, because this is 2 multiplied by ln 114. This is the natural log of 2. If this was 2 multiplied by the natural log, then you would start cancelling out, but it doesn't, so it stays exactly as it is. So don't make the mistake. It's very easy to make because you've got 2 multiplied by natural log and you've also got natural log of 2, so don't make that mistake. And I think that's the neatest I've actually written all video. Plug that into your calculator and it will give u equals to, or equal to 13.66, and we round that up, it's 13.666. That's as far as we need to go because we have u equals, we don't have anything multiplied or divided by u equals, it's u on its own, and this is the answer. If you want to see other videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.